Hey, I'm Rob from JTRPodcast.com. This is my first impressions of The War of the Buttons, which is a dice placement game based on a French novel from 1912, where your gangs of kids, I don't know if that's the right word, team of kids, who are going around trying to build a den. And there's some den card here, I'll just show you on the camera too. This is where you're trying to build. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to place wooden pieces like this. You can get that through the game, and you're going to be putting them on there like that throughout the game. To start the game, you're going to roll all your dice, but 3 of them are going to go in here. This is called in detention, and so you can start with 3 dice in detention on these spaces. It means you can't build the bit of wood here. You can end up getting another dice sent to detention, which means you couldn't build on this bit either. But to start the game, you have 3 dice in detention. And you're ready to begin. You'll go around in turn order, taking 1 action each. Actions involves placing dice. Once you haven't got any dice left, then you have to pass for the round. There are 14 places to place dice. These are divided up into 4 unique areas on the board. So we'll go through each of those areas now and see what they do. We'll start in the top left. This is the quarry, the forest, and the meadow. These are all similar spaces. They each have one of these tiles that are put on at the beginning of each round. So you're going to start with 1 each in the middle of the game. There's a space for them there. As you can see, they have these numbers here with these different buttons. And all you do is you take your dice and you put it in the leftmost row of any of these 3, whichever one you want. So let's just say I want to go here. I can put any die there, and then I would gain this number of buttons underneath that die. I always place the leftmost empty row. So you go, I would take 2 buttons. And with these spaces, the number of dice you place is important as well. So you've got to not only think of the value, the little pips on the dice, but also the amount of dice you're placing on as well. I'll show you that now. So for example, let's just say I placed a 1 in this space instead, because it's the easier to do an example for. So the next player can either place more dice of the same value, so it means I could place 2 blue, which would beat this one. This one would be displaced, and displaced dice go into the mill in the middle of the board here. But instead of playing a 1, I could play as many dice, the same number of dice, with a higher value. So I could play a 4, for example, which again would displace that. Then the next player could play, if they've got maybe 2 4s, and then they would displace that. Each time you're collecting these, you're going to be collecting this number of buttons on the row that you've placed. The end row itself is infinite, so let's just get to that end row. So say I place 2 5s, that'll displace those, etc. And when everybody places here, it's going to be 0, but you can just keep going round and round and round. Whoever's got this last row is going to claim this area at the end of the round. And each of these 3 areas works the same. Whoever's got the dice left on the board at the end of the round, so they've got their, say yellows took this one and blues took this one as well, with some 2 4s maybe. So that maybe that's how it ended up. The blue player would get this at the end of the round, that gives them 5 buttons. And the yellow player will get this tile at the end of the round, that gives them a big brother and 3 buttons. So I'll just show you big brothers are these. I'll say what they do in a minute. And then this person down here would get a star, and if I can hold it properly, and to put a piece of wood on their den. So they can choose any of the ones that aren't next to a die in detention and put it on, and so that's 1 bit built, 1 step closer to victory. As you can see, this one says 4+, so this area isn't used in a 2 or 3 player game, but then these are removed at the end of the round and you get a new set of tiles put on there. There's quite a few to pick from. They all do fairly similar things, which I'll go through as we go through the rest of the game. The second area you can place is the village. That's shown in the bottom left-hand corner of the board. I'll just flash a picture up of that. I don't need to show that on camera. It's just that space where you can place any die of any value, and you just get 1 button, as it says there on the village. And next to the village is the school. There's 7 places to place there. You can only place coloured dice. There are some white dice, which I'll get to in a minute. You also can't place the Big Brother tokens there either. Again, I'll explain those in a minute. But there are lots of different spaces there. There's only space for 1 die each. And let's see what happens with those at the end of the round. So I'll go through them in order of top left down to bottom right. So starting with the top left, this is the exam space. And what's important here is the value of this die. So this is the number 4, obviously. I know you know that. But what you're looking for is who's played number 4s, not just in the school, but also in these card spaces here for the cards that I haven't got to yet. And also the 3 locations reviewed earlier. So you're going to add up everybody's 4s, because that's the number placed on the exam. And whoever's got the most is going to get that token. So whoever has the most 4s on the board is going to get this tile, which lets you place a piece of wood into your den and get 4 buttons, which is cool. So that's activated at the end of the round. This one's activated as soon as you place the die. You pay 8 buttons and you can rescue someone from detention. So what you would do is you pay your 8 buttons, you take your den, take one of the dice off. You don't re-roll it. This dice is available to use immediately, but it has to stay the number that you take off. So you get to pick which one you want to take off, whichever one's going to be best for you at the moment, probably number 4 this round. And so you take that and it's ready to use. So this is the snitch. This guy here is the snitch, and you can see there is the same symbol here as to get a die out of detention. So you just put a die there, you get somebody out of detention, no problem. You don't have to pay 8 buttons. Of course, that comes with a punishment. You're not allowed to go to the locations anymore because that's where the kids go to play, and nobody wants to play with a snitch. So you can place it there, but as long as you're done in the locations, or you think you're done in the locations, then you'll get somebody back for free. And again, that die, you don't re-roll it, but it is available to use this round. This is a nice easy one. This is give you the first player pawn. It's quite a big dauber pawn. You can see it's quite high when you compare it to the dice. So this will give you the first turn next round. This one you pay 2 buttons and you get 2 Big Brother tokens. And what the Big Brother tokens are, they're just a die of any value. You can use them in any location except the school. So once you've used them once at the end of the round, you'll just chuck them back into the supply. And these 2 are going to help you get towards the end game conditions. This one, you can place a piece of wood in your den, and here it will give you a star. And you have to pay 5 buttons plus X, which X is the number of pieces of wood in your den. So in this case, you'd have to pay 6 because you've got 1 piece of wood in there. Pay 6 buttons, you get to put a piece of wood in your den. And this one, you just pay 5 plus the number of stars you've got, and you get another star. And as I said, the first person to build 6 pieces of wood in their hut is going to win, or if you get 6 stars, you win. And the final spaces to place dice are here. There are 3 cards. These are the places that you place the dice. Again, this is just used when you're playing with 4 players. And you'll place the dice to get the card. Now, how you do this depends on what the card is. So this one needs 2 dice, this one needs 3 dice, this one needs 2 dice. There are a bunch of cards. They all need between 2 and 4 dice in order to claim them. And what you would do is you put the number of dice. The numbers need to be identical. And you put them in the space there. So you need 3 dice. Then you pay the cost in buttons depending on the value of the dice. So if I place 3 ones, I just need to pay 1 button and I get this card. And if I play 3 fours, I've met the number of dice requirement, but I need to pay 4 buttons to the supplier to be able to get that card. So that's how that works. There's 3 different cards available. There's 3 types of abilities. I'll show you those now. This symbol here means it's a one-off. So you get 3 Big Brother tokens, that's fine. I mean, you can place Big Brothers in here, so instead of placing that other 4, I could have placed a Big Brother instead to substitute for that die. This infinity symbol is an ongoing effect. And this means the meadow location, the location on the other side of the board. If you place a dice, whenever you place a dice in there, you're going to get 2 buttons. And again, this card's only used in a 4-player game. This is not per dice, this is just a one-off. So if you place 3 dice in the meadow, you still only get 2 buttons. If you place 1 die, you're going to get 2 buttons. You can go in the meadow 2 or 3 times and get 2 buttons every time, but you only get 2 buttons for each placement. Just wanted to make that clear. And then this hand symbol here, this is the symbol for you, an action to take after you've rolled your dice, because obviously at the beginning of every round you're going to re-roll all your dice again. So this says basically you can change any 2s that you roll to any number, and there are a few of those with different values on. There's a 3. It might just be 2 and 3. Oh, no, 1. So it's 1, 2, and 3. So they have different values. So different players could have those. So what you do then, if different players have got them, you start in turn order and you go around to make sure you're not looking at who's doing what out of turn. So you can just change all your 1s, 2s, and 3s into whatever number you like before you start placing dice. And that's all the dice placement actions. There are some free actions you can take. You can pay 3 buttons to get a die from the river. These are dice that are going to help you out. They count as your colour. You can't place them in the school, but you can place them with your other dice in the different areas. You can place them on their own in the village to get 1 button. And the other actions are, I forgot, I'm just going to check the sheet. Here it is that you can, as I say, you can buy a white die. You can change the value of 1 die, 1 pip, but it costs a 1 per button. The 6 doesn't wrap round to the 1, so you can't wrap the die around. And you can free a boy from detention by discarding a card, which you think would be an obvious thing to do. If you've got a card that's a one-shot card, you could just discard it to free someone from detention, get a die, you're getting closer to that end-game goal, which would be good. But at the beginning of the round, a new round, you're going to get 2 buttons for each card you've got in front of you, so sometimes it's good to keep them and maybe save it for later to free somebody from detention. And that's it, you keep playing new rounds until somebody has built their den. There's a fully completed den, not very neat, but it doesn't have to be. I'll get 6 stars, whoever does that first is going to be the winner. And that's it. I mean, the game's pretty cool. You've got these spaces here with these tokens. These are going to be different every round. And the cards available over the other side are going to be different every round. There's also these that you can put over here so that you can change the value of these strips game to game, which is really cool. And it is good fun. It's just it's got a race to the target finish, which is not the type of game I like. I prefer to have points and see who wins at the end with secret hidden points and stuff, so you never really know. It can get a bit... I always find they get a bit frustrating when you get towards the end of a game and you can see that you're not going to win. It's just a case of, oh, great. But yeah, we played a game. We played it once, obviously, because it's the first impressions. We didn't finish it because somebody had to get the bus, but they had 5 pieces of their den finished. They had the other boy out of detention. They had a ton of buttons. They could have easily just put that last piece in their den before I got my final start. I had 5 stars, so I was 1 away from winning as well. But I just spent all my buttons getting my 5th star, because that cost me 10 buttons, so I had no buttons left. He was going to be first in turn order as well, so he was going to win quite easily, I think. So it's a good job the game ended. I'm going to call that a draw. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice. The artwork's nice. You can see all the bits around the board, all the cool stuff. The tokens are good. There's lots of variability. I think the only problem is, if you look on the shelf, the 8 calyx squares that you can see behind me of all these games, I've only played 4 of them this year, and it's August. So to get in front of the queue for some of these, because obviously these are my favourite games, because they're the ones I've bought, they're the ones I've kept, you've got to be good. And where is it here? Bora Bora. It's one of my favourite dice placement games. I've got Roll for the Galaxy down there, which, while it's not really a dice placement game in the same way that this is, it's still a good game that uses dice to select your actions and stuff. So if I'm going to play a game that involves dice placement, it's not going to be ahead of Bora Bora, it's not going to be ahead of Roll for the Galaxy. It's lighter than both of those. It's going to be easier to teach, which is good. It's going to make it more accessible. But if you're going to go down towards the accessibility route and a game that's easier to play, then if it's got dice in it, I know it's not a Euro or in any way, but a game like Flatline or Fuse are 2 games that are sat down here somewhere and down there, down in the corner somewhere, that I'd rather play ahead of this. So it's not that it's a bad game. It is a very good game. It's just unfortunately not going to be kept by me because there's just no room anymore. The shelves are full and creaking. Some games need to go. I've got a ton of games to sell. Unfortunately, this is going to be one of them. But if you like the look of this, it is a very good game. I do recommend that you give it a go if you get the chance. That is War of the Buttons. Remember to like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at JTRPodcast to find the blog and the podcast at JTRPodcast.com. I've been Rob, aka Jesta ThaRogue, and I'll see you soon.